Here's the truth. Attraction isn't born from wealth, kindness, or courtesy. It emerges from the deepest part of the primitive brain, the place where, in a fraction of a second, a woman decides whether you're unforgettable or invisible. Centuries ago, Machiavelli revealed it. Humans are not moved by morality, but by power, fear, and desire. And that's why the good man is so often ignored, while the one who radiates contained danger, a calm dominance, awakens in her an obsession that cannot be extinguished. In this video, you'll learn the 6 pillars of the dirty method. Simple, precise shifts that unsettle her when you're gone, make her addicted when you're near, and make you irreplaceable. These aren't tricks. They are psychological strategies that reprogram the way women respond to you at the most primal level. Stay until the end, because once you master them, you'll never chase anyone again. You'll become the gravity she cannot escape. The first pillar is movement. Movement means disruption, the art of breaking her rhythm, shattering her mental autopilot, and waking her from emotional sleep. Understand this. Modern women are constantly surrounded by men. Men in her messages, men at work. Men orbiting her attention like satellites. But 99% of them blend into the same predictable background. They text the same lines, laugh the same way, follow the same tired script. They move in patterns that her brain has learned to ignore. Because the human mind, especially the reptilian brain, is not drawn to comfort, it's drawn to contrast. It's wired to notice what's different, what breaks the pattern, what feels slightly dangerous. And that's what you must become. Not another voice in the crowd, but the disruption itself. Not through loud words, not through forced confidence, but through energy. Through how you move, how you enter a space, and how your presence disturbs the air around you. Picture this. A crowded room filled with men chasing her attention. Most of them move too fast, speak too loudly, lean in too eagerly. Their energy screams neediness. And then there's you, still, calm, deliberate. You don't chase energy, you command it. Your stillness becomes magnetic. Your body doesn't lean toward her, it makes her lean toward you. Your silence doesn't create awkwardness, it creates tension. The kind of silence that makes her wonder, who is this man? That is movement. Not physical, but psychological. The disruption of what's expected. Machiavelli would have said it best. The prince who repeats the patterns of others is ruled by them, but the prince who disrupts the pattern becomes feared and desired. Because here's the truth, her nervous system is always scanning. Predictability equals safety. Unpredictability equals excitement. And while safety makes her relax, excitement makes her feel alive. When your presence breaks her mental script, adrenaline releases. Her pulse quickens, her breath changes. She can't explain it, but her body feels it before her mind catches up. Curiosity awakens. The ancient voice inside her whispers, "This man is not like the others. Pay attention." So how do you apply this? When you walk into a room, slow down. Don't rush to fill the silence. Let your stillness reshape the atmosphere. When you approach a woman, don't follow the script. Say something that interrupts her pattern, not to impress, but to disrupt. Something simple, grounded, unexpected. And when your eyes meet hers, don't look away too fast. Don't exaggerate the moment either. Hold the gaze, steady, calm, unblinking, until she looks away first. Then shift your attention as if you expected her to. Because the moment you do, the power dynamic changes. You stop being one of many and become the center of gravity. This isn't acting, it's biology. Movement makes her primitive brain see you as a threat, but the kind of threat that excites, not harms. And that is the foundation of attraction. The man who moves differently is the man she remembers. The man who breaks her rhythm becomes the man she dreams about. Because in a world of repetition, the one who disrupts becomes unforgettable. And that is the first pillar, movement. The second pillar is attitude. Here's the truth. Women don't fall for words. They fall for gravity. Every woman will test you, not because she's cruel, not because she enjoys it, but because she must. It's instinct, older than language. She'll tease you, challenge you, pull away, just to see what happens when the ground shakes. Can this man hold his center when chaos begins? Can he stay unmoved when the storm rises? Most men fail that test. They defend themselves. They explain too much. They laugh nervously, trying to prove they're safe. They chase her approval instead of holding their ground. And in that instant she feels it. Weakness. Her attraction dies quietly like a flame starved of air. But the dangerous man, he doesn't defend, doesn't chase, doesn't explain. He doesn't even flinch. He allows her energy to crash against his and break like waves against stone. Think about the animal kingdom. Wolves don't ask for respect. They radiate it. Leadership is not declared. It's felt. And women are no different. They sense your hierarchy before you open your mouth. They don't just listen to your words. They read your stillness, your tone, your energy. Machiavelli would have told you, never explain your authority. Sit on the throne, and the throne will speak for you. That's attitude, the invisible crown that only real men wear. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's knowing who you are and refusing to step down from it. Here's how you embody it. Your body, still, grounded, never restless. Your voice, slower than hers, deliberate, unshaken. Your eyes, direct, yet calm, never seeking, never pleading. Your reactions, minimal, measured, because only small men overreact. A king doesn't bark, he observes. So when she teases you, don't defend yourself. When she tests you, don't try to prove anything. When she withdraws, don't chase. Simply watch. Let her feel the weight of your composure. If she accuses, you smirk. If she jokes, you tilt your head, amused. If she pulls away, you stay still, centered. That's the moment her primal brain wakes up. Because deep down, women don't crave validation. They crave stability. They want to feel the presence of a man who can remain calm when the world burns. And that's what dominance truly is. Not control over her, but control over yourself. Attitude is your unspoken command. The quiet confidence that bends the energy of the room. It's the pulse of masculine certainty that says, I don't chase chaos, I contain it. And once she feels that, the test ends. Because she's no longer questioning your strength, she's surrendering to it. That is the second pillar, attitude. The third pillar is neglect. And here's the paradox. Desire doesn't grow when you give more. It grows when you give less. Modern men destroy attraction because they confuse attention with seduction. They believe that the more they give, the more she'll want them. But biology doesn't work that way. The primitive brain values scarcity and ignores what's abundant. Think of the first tribes. What was abundant was overlooked. What was scarce was worshipped. Fire, food, shelter, safety. Scarcity defined value. And today, that same logic applies to you. All men flood her with attention, messages, likes, instant replies, and so they all become invisible. But the man who withholds, who retreats at the highest point, who lets silence weigh heavy, becomes unforgettable. This is the art of neglect, not cruelty, not rejection, but the elegant discipline of absence. Machiavelli would have warned you, it's always the absent who are most spoken of. Here's why it works. When the conversation peaks, when laughter flows, when her body connects to yours, that is not the moment to stay. It's the moment to leave. Leave her mid-sentence. Leave her restless. Leave her craving resolution. Her primitive brain releases dopamine when she feels pleasure in your presence. But if you disappear at the height of that dopamine, her brain becomes addicted. She replays your last words, rereads your last message, and in her mind, you never leave the room. Feel her absence like hunger. Think of a show that ends every episode on a cliffhanger. You can't stop watching, not because it was complete, but because it wasn't. That's exactly how you must become in her life, the unresolved tension she can't stop reliving. Here's how you apply it. Don't respond instantly, let her feel the silence. When the energy is high, leave first. Don't let it fade. End the call before she's ready. Walk away in person when the atmosphere is still burning. This is neglect used as strategy, and its effect is primitive. Her brain hates open loops. She will chase closure, and you will become that closure, the one she can't stop craving. But here's the key. Neglect without purpose is just absence. Neglect timed with precision is power. Withdraw when she least expects it, when she's most invested. That's what transforms interest into obsession, because what she can't fully have, she can never fully forget. The fourth pillar is boldness, and this is where most men fall. They build attraction, they create tension, but when the moment of truth arrives, they crumble. Fear takes command. Fear of rejection, fear of ruining the magic, fear of being too much. And in that hesitation, the spark dies a quiet death. But women don't wait for hesitation, they wait for boldness. They wait for a man who slices through doubt like a blade through smoke, a man who steps forward with clarity, certainty, and presence. Machiavelli once wrote, "Fortune favors the bold, because fortune, like desire, is feminine. She does not bow to hesitation, she yields only to strength. Her primal mind is ancient. It responds not to words, but to energy, to the silent command of a man who moves when others freeze. To leadership born not from arrogance, but from instinct, the deep, wordless knowing of what must be done." Think of those charged moments, when her gaze lingers a second too long, when silence thickens between you, when her breathing changes and the air itself seems to tremble. Most men ruin that moment by overthinking, by searching for permission, for signs, for reassurance. But the dangerous man doesn't wait. He acts. He moves closer, touches her hand with quiet certainty, draws her into his gravity without a single word. And here lies the paradox women will never confess. They speak of patience, kindness, gentleness, and all of that has truth. But beneath those layers, in the primal code of their biology, they ache for boldness. For the man who does not ask but reads the moment and moves. This is not aggression, it's precision. You do not force when her body resists. You do not rush when the energy isn't ready. But when the door opens, you walk through it, without fear, without apology, without hesitation. Because that single act, that step forward when others shrink back, is what separates you from the countless men she forgets. Desire isn't born from comfort, it's born from controlled danger, from the tension between safety and risk. That's what keeps her pulse alive in the dark. To embody boldness, you must retrain your mind. Stop negotiating with fear. Stop rehearsing imaginary rejections. The primitive brain doesn't care about logic, it only reads signals. It feels your hesitation before you speak. It senses uncertainty like a scent. So, when you feel the tension rise, don't rush to dissolve it with words. Hold it. Let silence expand. Let her feel your calm dominance beneath the chaos of emotion. Because silence is where attraction breathes. It's where power reveals itself. Boldness is not about being fearless. It's about acting despite the fear. It's about knowing that the moment you hesitate, the moment dies. The opportunity fades, and you fade with it. So train yourself to move when the energy calls for it, not after. To strike when the iron is hot, not when it's safe. Because boldness isn't about control, it is control. It's the quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, I know what I want, and I move toward it. And when you live like that, you become unforgettable. Because the man who acts with boldness leaves a mark that comfort never can. He becomes the one she remembers, not because he chased her, but because he awakened something no one else dared to touch. That is the power of boldness, and it is the fourth pillar of desire. The fifth pillar is the magnetic touch. And here's the truth. Words can lie, presence can be faked, but touch never deceives. Long before language existed, humans spoke through skin. A hand on the shoulder was a message, a firm grip was dominance, a gentle caress was safety. The skin was our first alphabet, and it still speaks louder than any word. The body remembers what the mind forgets. And every woman, no matter how modern or guarded, is still wired to respond to the right touch at the right moment. But this is where most men fail. They touch too soon, too often, too desperately. Their timing is off, their rhythm unnatural. Their hands speak the language of need, not power, and her body, wiser than her mind, rejects it instantly. Attraction doesn't die because of touch itself. It dies because of when and how it's delivered. Machiavelli would have warned you, the subtle weapon must be sharper than the obvious one. Touch is that weapon. When mastered, it bypasses her logic and goes straight to her reptilian brain, the part that doesn't analyze, only reacts. So how do you master it? By understanding that touch isn't about pressure, it's about contrast. It's not about holding, it's about releasing. It's not about the touch itself, but the silence that follows. Here's how you apply it. Start with innocence. A light brush on her arm during laughter, a steady hand guiding her gently through a doorway, a playful tap that lingers just a heartbeat longer than necessary. Small, casual, effortless, but with presence. Then, step back. Withdraw. Let absence do the talking, because the moment you remove your touch, her body begins to miss it. Longing takes root before her mind even realizes what's happening. Move with rhythm. Close, distant, contact, pause, safe, dangerous, touch, silence. You're not just touching her skin, you're programming her nervous system to associate your presence with pleasure, safety, and anticipation. She starts to crave it, not consciously, but biologically. Like a melody, her body wants to replay. Here's the primitive truth. When the right man touches her, oxytocin and dopamine flood her bloodstream. It's not romance, it's chemistry. You're not just creating connection, you're etching yourself into her biology. Even after she forgets your words, her body remembers your energy, the way you made her feel seen without sight, understood without speech. That is the magnetic touch. Not invasive, not desperate, but deliberate. It's the touch that listens through skin, that observes her breath, that commands without pressure. A touch that says, I could, but I don't have to. A touch that feels both safe and dangerous. And that contradiction drives her mad. It's not just about contact, it's a conversation without words. Every pause builds anticipation. Every retreat creates hunger. And in that rhythm of presence and absence, you become unforgettable. Because the truth is, any man can touch a woman's body, but very few ever touch her nervous system. Very few ever touch her soul. Once you master this, you'll understand why most men are erased from memory, but you remain. You're not another man in her story. You become the imprint, the invisible echo that lingers long after you're gone. That is the fifth pillar, the magnetic touch. The sixth pillar is cold reading. And here's another truth. Women crave to be seen. Not for the mask they wear, but for the truths they hide behind it. Every woman is a fortress of subtle signals. The way she dresses, the rhythm of her voice, the pauses in her laughter, the words she chooses to avoid. Most men are blind to these signs, but the dangerous man, he sees. He listens between her sentences. He notices the silence between her smiles. He becomes the mirror she never knew she needed. Machiavelli once said, "To rule men, read their fears. To rule women, read their hidden hunger." And that hunger isn't for attention, it's for understanding. For a man who can read what she won't confess, even to herself. Here's how it works. When you notice something about her she hasn't said aloud, you pierce through her performance. Maybe she laughs too loud when she's nervous, you notice. Maybe she wears bold jewelry to distract from insecurity, you mention it softly. Maybe her tone sharpens when she feels vulnerable, you reflect it back calmly. In that moment she feels exposed, not physically, but emotionally, seen in a way most men could never reach. And that feeling is terrifying, yet irresistible. Because the primal brain craves exposure. It wants someone strong enough to see the truth, without judgment. That's why women test men constantly. They don't want perfection, they want depth. They want to know, can he handle the real me? Can he look into my chaos? And stay calm. But here's the discipline. You must never use this as a weapon. If you expose her too harshly, she'll retreat. If you do it gently, with calm curiosity, she'll open deeper than she intended. From now on, observe more than you speak. Notice patterns in her energy, not just her words. Reflect them back with precision. Say what you see, without agenda. You laugh when you're uncomfortable. You seem calmer when you slow down. You pretend you don't care, but your eyes say otherwise. Then stop. Leave space. Silence is your greatest ally. Because after truth comes vulnerability. She will fill the silence, not to impress you, but to reveal more of herself. And that's the hidden power of cold reading. It creates emotional gravity, a pull she can't explain. When a woman feels truly seen at her core, she bonds beyond logic. Not because you seduced her, but because you reached the chambers of her identity no other man dared to enter. Remember this. Cold reading isn't manipulation. It's awareness sharpened into precision. You're not controlling her emotions, you're awakening them. You're reminding her of something ancient, the instinct to follow the one who truly sees her. And once you master this art, the games stop. She removes the mask. She lets you see the pure feminine essence she protects from every other man. That revelation, her unguarded truth, is what makes her desire you beyond reason. At that point, you're no longer just a man. You've become a mirror to her soul. And that is power. Because once you understand how to read emotion, you can shape it. If you can shape emotion, you can shape attraction. And if you can shape attraction, you can shape anything. Your relationships, your career, your influence, your life. The principles never change. Presence, precision, power. You're no longer the man who waits to be chosen. You shape the game itself. This is the turning point, the line between who you were and who you're becoming now. From this moment forward, you don't beg for attention, you command it. You don't chase love, you magnetize it. You don't seek validation, you embody it. You've become gravity, and everything else simply orbits around you. If this message hit you, don't just scroll. Comment one word, awake. That's how awareness begins. And if you're ready to go deeper, tap like, share this with a man who needs to hear it, and remember, we are building minds that do not beg, they attract, lead, and conquer. Stay dangerous. Stay awake.